in the backyard burning their personal papers. This computer, and we are recording, and my timer's going off, and my phone is muted. Hey, Jen, how are
Is
you?
it muted?
It is. I double checked.
Look, let me check mine. Not that mine ever goes off, but
Well, we are having a guest today, and that guest may, text you, like, hey, blah 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 blah. So if we were, if we're ever an answer on Jeopardy, the question would be, who was our first guest? And this is our first guest today. So
our
when the
first
guest
guest.
comes in,
Bum,
we
bum,
can.
bum, bum.
That's our new confetti thing we like. And I'm sure
Yes.
I'm sure this will carry over into our real life.
Probably. Probably.
Um, so let's talk about our names today. I'll let you go first since you are going to start some, not
Shenanigans.
drama, but geesh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Shenanigans. So I have CT number one, second to none. I
And
don't
for people
know
who
if
are not in Detroit, what is CT?
Cass Technical High School. Thank you very much. But for the most part, I mean, if people know Detroit, they know CT. Like it's a
Well,
no-brainer.
I think people who are not from Detroit know Cass Tech, but they don't know that people call it CT.
CT, Cass Technical High. So I don't know, many of you may remember a few episodes ago, somebody was blowing smoke about their high school hitting some type of ranking or whatever. Interesting enough, this week I saw that
Oh, Lord.
um, um, the current principal, who's been honored, you know, many times for the work that she's done in the um, infamous Cass Tech, was honored with a group of other leaders in Washington, D.C. this past week. And she was honored for her the contributions that she's made towards education, specifically those things that she's done at, yes, you got it, Tech number one, second to none.
Okay, okay, Cass Tech number one.
Boom, boom, boom.
I don't have any confetti for that.
You don't have to. I can have a whole party by myself.
Oh, okay. So last time we were together, it was National Daughters Day. Then apparently the next week is National Sons Day. So I'm going to shout out National Sons Day. As you know, my sons are very, they're not into social media, uh, being the limelight in the spotlight. They'd rather move, behind the scenes, mind their own business, keep to themselves.
Yes,
You
yes.
if there's a picture being taken, you can probably guarantee they're either not going to be in it or they're trying to hide in the back. I do that also, by the way. Um, so I just want to shout them out because they deserve it. They're good young men,
They are.
and I know they're probably never going to see this because because they're not into this kind of stuff. Not a single one of them has said anything about anything we've put out so far,
Wow.
like nothing at all, because they haven't seen it.
Yes, I can believe that.
So, shout out to them for just being
Shout out to, yes,
remarkable young men.
they are. I would concur. They're remarkable young men.
Well, thank you, thank you. Even though they call me he, uh,
Even though they're going to be.
we're still good. I'm still cool with them.
Yeah,
Uh,
very good.
I don't know if I told you I had an interview maybe a week ago, a week and a half ago, maybe, for a new position. And, it was an interesting, it was an interesting interview.
Okay.
Um, and it was partly interesting because, I'm 57 years old and, you know, looking for work at this age. Should you? Do you? Why do you? But it was more so interesting because I think I told the truth in my interview. And who does that? You know,
Oh, yeah. So what made you, do that? Like,
tell the truth?
yeah, well, here's the thing. I don't want people to think like you go into interviews lying. I think that you probably were just, instead of maybe not the truth, but you were honest
I
about
was
your,
honest.
yeah. So, because a lot of times I think that it's not that we're not telling the truth, but we aren't particularly honest up front about our.
And let me say I was honest about what I wanted. So
Yeah,
not necessarily honest about what I could do and what I couldn't do, because those embellishments I don't need to do anyway. But
right,
I was very honest about, no, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I can offer you. I'm looking for someone who can offer me this. And where can we meet? If you're talking about this being some sort of a big, deal, where does it land? Where does it end up? You know, things like that.
right.
Um, so I think it was very honest I was very honest about where I would want to fit in at this point and what they could do, you know, as far as that job is concerned. So I left feeling pretty good. I also left feeling like I am not getting this job because I really felt that, I said things you probably don't normally say in an interview, like, no, I wouldn't want to do that. How many times do you say that in an interview? Like, no, that's not it.
Yeah, but do you think like that's because of because you have made strides in your career, so that you do know what you do want at this point and what you don't want and what you just really just don't want to do anymore? Because I think like when I think about myself, I'm like, there's just some things that I know I don't want to do
Right.
certain things anymore.
I mean, it was partly that, I already have a job. It's
Hmm.
always easier to interview when you're already working than
Right,
when you're not working
right,
because you're not looking for something. You're looking for something special or something
correct.
different.
Yeah.
So, it was partly that, like, I don't really need the job. It's a good position. I'd like to try it out, but I do know what I don't want to do. And I went in with that. Like, I'm not going to do these things.
Hmm.
I let it come up organically, though. I didn't just go in and say, listen here.
I don't do windows. I don't.
And I need every Thursday off. No, I didn't go in like that. I let it come up organically. But I just was my authentic self, as I like to say nowadays. I'm being
Yeah, I like that. I think that being your authentic self is something that people strive to get to. I think it takes a while for you really to get there, though. Like where you're saying, like that honesty is not being rude or disrespectful, but like I know myself enough to know like I know what I want, and this is not it. And because really, I think at this point, the interview should be going both ways. I mean, I
Mhm.
think it does that anyway, but I think when you're younger in your career, because you're trying to make a name for yourself, or you're trying to build your brand, or build your skill set, that you do allow for some things that you really don't want to do, but you agree to do them. And I think that now we're just at a point where it's just like, no, like I said, I already got a job, and I just don't want to do that anymore. I don't want the hustle and bustle,
Yeah.
those kinds of things, right, in my life right now. I'm looking, for something that, is conducive to what I need as well as what you're gonna get.
Right. I'm looking for something that fits into my life the way I want
Right.
it to move from here forward.
Right.
So, that being the case, we're going to bring someone in to help us talk through a lot of this stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Jan, do you want to introduce our guest?
So I am so proud to introduce to you guys my sins, not to be confused with a lying sister.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no confusion here.
Uh, Jackie Munson Gaines, she is the president and CEO of, as you see behind her, JMG Connects. That provides human resources connections and not just connections though, because you also do trainings and
Yep, support
facilitation.
services.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So,
Thank
Jackie,
you for the intro.
they're Sands, by the way.
Fans, yes.
So
Not to be
Jackie,
confused with line sister.
not to be confused with line sister. Jackie, when I told a few people, hey, we're going to do this episode about finding a new job over 50. And they said, well, can you ask about over 40 as well? So we're going to go
Absolutely.
all the way down to 40. We know that the variables are different as you age, what you're looking for, what you expect to get are may be different as you age. Um, what should someone who's and just before you jumped on, I told Jan I had an interview last week, and it was the most honest interview I've ever had because I didn't really need a job,
Right.
so I could be my authentic self going in. I
Absolutely.
don't
Yep.
ever expect to hear from them again, but I felt good when I left the interview. So if I'm looking for a job, I'm 57. So if I'm looking for a job at 57, are there places I should be looking, places I should not be looking? What should I be looking for?
Okay, so I think that's a great question. And you mentioned the 40 versus 50 versus 60. So I actually would lump anyone over 40 into the same category, right? So when you look at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, over 40 is considered a protected class. So the group, no matter what the age, sometimes you might run into some kind of discrimination based on your age, right? So you said, are there places you should look, shouldn't look, etc.? You know, I often give people the advice that you should be looking everywhere as long as it's something that you are in fact interested in. Um, and the looking for me really includes really trying to network, right? Do you know somebody who knows somebody who might work within that organization? Have you gone on LinkedIn to see your connections and to see who might be connected to someone within that organization? Sending blind resumes or doing blind applications, it's much more difficult to land an interview, to land a position if in fact you've not networked yourself in.
So speaking of LinkedIn, my children who are in their 20s
Mhm.
tell me that like when they do their resumes or something like that. First of all, I don't even know if they do resumes. I think everything that they do is on LinkedIn. And there are things that are different since the last time I had to really look for a job, taking your address off of information. Can you talk to us about that? So let's say I haven't looked for a job in 20 years.
Yeah.
So what's different now than it was 20 years ago?
So, actually, Ernest, I've had the pleasure of talking to one of your sons. So he absolutely does have a resume, but he
Okay.
also has his LinkedIn updated, right? He has his LinkedIn updated, and he has, let recruiters know that he is in fact looking. So there is a switch within LinkedIn where you can let recruiters know that you're looking, and there's another switch that that alerts everybody that you're looking. So, you know, my recommendation is if you're currently in a job, you probably don't want to put that out for the masses to see, right? But you do want to put that out for recruiters to see it if in fact they have the, you know, the recruiter module for LinkedIn. So I also say it is super important to have your LinkedIn updated, period. So you haven't looked for a job in 20 years, Ernest, and I'm sure in those 20 years you've been promoted a few times. And if you know you put something on LinkedIn years ago, it's not updated. So you want to make sure that you do in fact update your LinkedIn. The address, like you said, it's not necessary today because a lot of companies offer a hybrid model, right? So you can be working from home, you know, 3 days a week and in the office 2 days a week. And depending on those 2 days, if you live, say, in California and the job's in Vegas, you might not even have to move. You could do Tuesday, Wednesday in the office and the other days working, you know, remotely. So you might fly in or drive in, spend the night, Airbnb, hotel, and then come back after that second day. So people have really been able to be super creative as to how they work that hybrid and also in a position to save money.
Can I
know
do that? I want to do that. I want to.
I knew you
I
were going
want
to say that. I
My
knew
ears perked up. I'm like, wait, that's a thing? I can do that?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's definitely a thing. Just think about internships in the summer for college students. And there was a hybrid model in New York City. Someone lived in Nashville. Well, that person actually, you know, got their airline tickets in advance, flew out the morning of the day that that person had to be in the office, Airbnb one night, right? Because you're in on a Tuesday, spend the night, you're out on Wednesday, and had that return ticket back home Wednesday night. That person did not have to spend the money for the high rent that's in New York City and got the benefit, however, of working for a high powered organization, right? So, again, flexibility is important, and you're being creative and innovative is really important as well.
So also, before I forget, I want to say that a 42-year-old is going to hear you and say, I didn't know, or be really upset that they're in this protected class of what is considered to be old.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember thinking I was old at 40.
Yeah. Over 40 is, you know, considered protected class.
See, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, I just hit a major milestone birthday, and I feel better today at this age than I did at 39. So you're only as old as you feel, right?
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah. And you don't have to tell your age. So someone who's 42 but looks 35, they're good.
So
I
let
would
me
actually say someone who's 60 and looks 40 is good. The reality is today, you know, companies are looking for good people. The companies that I support, I tell them, sometimes people are digging a little deeper to really try to get a feel for how old someone is. But the reality is, if you get a very experienced, competent, emotionally intelligent team member to join your team, and they're only there for 2, 3, 4 years, that's better than having someone that doesn't have that experience on your team, right? So I'd rather have a really good, strong person on my team than someone that I really have to, develop. Again, depending on, the needs of the organization, right? So development is important, developing people within the organization. But if you want to have someone coming in, hit the ground running, why not get that more mature, more experienced person to join your team, even if it's short term?
Okay, so that brings me, and I feel like I'm monopolizing the conversation because clearly I'm looking for a job. So,
yes, his questions are all self-serving.
so they're all like, well, I'm looking. So if my
well, you
employer
get the benefit of asking these questions, Ernest, and not having to pay for it. So there you go.
You know, if my employer is listening, you
Okay.
know, you could give me more money. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there.
No, I hear you. I hear you. And that's the thing, right? So when you've worked for an organization for 20 years, you're getting the annual performance reviews, you're getting the merit increases, anywhere from 3, very high end 7% increases, right? And what happens is you're just, chugging along, chugging along, chugging along. But for those people who are more of job hoppers, when they get a 10, 15% increase each time they move, so they come into the organization actually making more money than you, right? So organizations really need to do a better job at looking at internal equity, right? Not just for women, people of color, people with physical challenges, but also their seasoned team members who have been with them for quite some time.
So what is the fear, or what is the downside of leaving a job you've been at for 20 years? And some people look at it like, well, I already know what goes on here. I don't know what goes on at that company. I already, know my boss already knows I leave early on Tuesdays. So
Yeah,
I don't want to start that again.
The whole devil you know versus the devil you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So I personally don't see a downside. If in fact it's time for you to leave based on whatever, discernment process you went through, then it's time for you to leave, right? And in my opinion, it can only go up. You could find yourself in an unusual situation, but that doesn't happen very often. And if in fact you do find yourself in an unusual and uncomfortable situation, then just like you just got that job, you can get another job too, right? So I believe it's really about, having the confidence to move on and having the competence to move on.
You know what? I'm kind of glad that you kind of touched on that, because it just makes me think that I just feel like there are some really gifted, talented people that are being underutilized, but because of age, they're staying, where they're currently at, and not even taking that leap out there, feeling like nobody's going to hire them, but like making that move is important.
It really is. So years ago, and not very long ago, baby boomers were, most of the people in the workforce were baby boomers. Now it's millennials. Gen X just never got, people weren't having kids, right? So they just never, rose to the level of either of those categories. So the reality is there's a gap with skill set and need. So if in fact you have the skills, the employers need you. So again, I would take that leap. And especially if I'm not happy where I'm currently at, or I've gone to my leadership and have requested an increase, and if that didn't happen, then perhaps that's something else to consider. So it really is about, so what does the market say, right? Your current role is worth. And if in fact the market and your current salary doesn't align, then you need to go to your leadership and talk about a market adjustment.
What I hear the most when hiring and with upper leadership, upper management, they will say things like, but our benefits are this, and we had the bit. Now, when I was 25, I could care less about your benefits.
Right.
I needed money. Your benefits didn't pay any rent, no bills, no nothing. So, but at 57, what kind of benefit should I be looking for?
Yeah, so it's always important to look at total compensation, right? So it's the total compensation package. What does, and especially at 57, what do the health insurance benefits look like, right? What does the short-term disability policy look like? Long-term disability. Those are critical because if in fact you have some kind of illness or injury and you have to be off from work for a short period of time, is the company paying 66 and 2/3 of my salary? Are they paying 80% of my salary? And can I live on that lower salary, right? So that's super important going in. And then the other thing is, what do my copays look like? What kind of percentage, of my benefits is my current employer paying, and what kind of contribution do I have to make? Because that does factor into total compensation. Because if I'm paying too much into that, then perhaps I should have stayed where I was at, right? And nowadays there are very few companies who actually offer a retirement program.
Right.
So that's not something that you have to be that concerned about. But the other thing is 401k, right?
Mhm.
401k, 403. What what additional money? Is there a short-term bonus? Is there a long-term bonus? Is there a long-term incentive? Stock options. So you have to look at that total compensation.
So this is just for me,
Sure.
just me question.
Okay.
So I do have a retirement plan, so I do have a pension. So if I'm looking, should I also look for other places that have a pension or let that go?
No, I would say, depending on, again, you're going to have to do an evaluation, right? What is that retirement program worth? If in fact I leave, what percentage of that retirement would I still get? So again, you have to work with, your financial analyst if you have one, or, yourself, and really understand what does that mean if I leave. And then there are some organizations, again, depending on what level you're able to come in, where they will take that into consideration when they extend the offer. Do they give you a sign on bonus because you're not going to get that contribution to your retirement this year? Do they give you a sign on bonus because you're going to miss out on, your regular bonus that you would have gotten? So again, that's all a part of negotiating an offer.
This seems like a long process from the time you interview. I don't know, I'm just recently telling Black people, you can negotiate some things. But we used to
I mean,
just like, okay, we're gonna pay you
set.
this, start Wednesday. Like,
Yeah.
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Um, so what does
No,
that
I mean, it's
process
really,
look like?
yeah. So I encourage negotiation with every offer. To me, the offer is a starting point, period. Okay. And then really understand what the market is paying. So you don't want to come with a counter that is completely out of market range, right? And the negotiation, quite honestly, should be with the HR person, not with
Mhm.
your potential new boss.
Right.
Um, and that negotiation could, it could last several days, because sometimes you're negotiating, you're looking at what the market bears, you go back with a counter, they have to get that counter approved or share it with someone else. They might come back with a counter. And, oftentimes people are concerned about, well, what if they take the offer off the table, right? Most companies don't do that. If in fact you're negotiating, I would say that's really being savvy, right? That's really being smart about taking that next step versus, if it's perceived as being a nuisance, then perhaps that's not the organization that you want to work with.
I feel like I'm monopolizing the conversation, but I'm going to keep going.
Okay.
Because everyone in the world knows that what I really, really want is to be retired.
Okay.
If I wake up tomorrow and they say, hey, we're going to retire you with everything that you would get if you were 62 or 65, I'd take it.
Okay.
I'm
That's
out of here.
okay.
But go ahead. What I've been seeing lately is people I do know were able to retire at 55. Now they're 60 and now they're working.
Yeah.
So how does that happen? And most importantly, how can I avoid that?
Well, again, it's dollars and cents, right? It's about the numbers. So perhaps those people who were 55 didn't realize how much it really takes for them to maintain their current lifestyle, or either take a slight step down from their lifestyle. Sometimes you don't know until you're in it, right? So I would say that person may not have done their homework. And in some cases, that person was impacted by the stock market, right? Perhaps their holdings did not, in fact, hold up the way that they needed and wanted it to. So you have to go through that analysis. You have to understand, how much it actually costs you to live. Not just, can I pay my bills if I retire at 55, but can I pay my bills and also maintain a similar lifestyle? So,
Okay.
I was just thinking about that because, our mom, Jackie, our mom,
mhm.
has probably retired about 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I just had somebody that was doing some work for me around my condo. And he was sharing that he, basically retired from the plant GM
Mhm,
around COVID. Just it just made more sense for him to let it go. But he
mhm.
was so bored, that he felt like, okay, I need to do something. So, I mean, can you kind of talk about like that aspect of it? And if I'm looking just to work because I want to be bored, like where should I be looking for employment?
Wow, I think that's a good question. So I would say, if you have the potential to be bored, stay where you're at. My dad
Wow.
is 82 years old, 82, 82, 82, 83, 82. And he's been practicing law since he was 50. And he is still, in fact, he sent me a text this morning saying I have to be at Oakland County Circuit Court on Monday morning. So he is not leaving his job because he
Mm.
knows he would be bored. And he is not going to be a greeter at Walmart because he got bored, right? So he has decided that I'm going to continue to work. I don't know what else I would do. Um, and again, I think that there is an opportunity for people to become consultants if in fact they decide, that this is not what they want to do, retirement's not for them. So being a consultant, being an expert in your area, there are organizations who have, groups that say, ask the expert, so you can go and actually work for someone as a subject matter expert. And then, holiday time, retail. But there are definitely opportunities out there. But I would say, if you think that that is a possibility, I would not leave my well-paying job to go and do something different, because you may as well. I mean, if you're going to work, you may as well work at the same level
Mhm.
that you were working in previously.
Well, right now I feel like I owe my mother an apology.
Well, I don't, because I'll say no, I don't, because having people who work for you who are at that phase in their life where they're like, hey, I'm old, I can say what I want, I can do what I want. They're
Mhm.
hard to work with. They're
Oh my.
hard when they report to you.
Mhm.
And you're just like, okay, why are you here though? And
Right.
I feel like our mother was at that place. And, it would have been nicer or better if she was a consultant and can just come and go, and instead of just being there and just, being around people like that.
And that's the other thing too, right? So that would, you know, sour people's opinion of hiring an older person if in
Mhm.
fact they came with let's use the word baggage instead of attitude, right? If they came with that, that would be problematic.
So we are at the point in our program where we do our rapid fire questions. Jackie, will start
Already?
with you. And I think because I think you may have mentioned this already, so I'll start with this one. What are the
Okay.
benefits of owning your own company?
Wow. So for me, um, just being able to make an impact within multiple organizations versus the one that I was working at the time. Do you know what I mean? So I get to put my tentacles into a number of different organizations and bring my experience and into multiple different organizations. So I love that part. I also like the fact that at this point I can decide who and who I want to work with, right?
Mm,
So, I'm in, for example, the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, right? And if I have, a company that really wants to soft pedal DEI, we have to change the words and we can't really call it this because of that.
mm,
Well, I'm probably not your consultant, right? Because I am all about being authentic, keeping it real, as the younger
mm.
people would say. And I don't like to soft pedal it. The other thing is, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily say flexibility because I'm super busy, but most of the time I can make my own schedule and work around other conflicting uh, priorities without my clients really knowing. So that works out well too.
Okay. The next question, and Jan, we'll start with you. I have an answer. I don't know if you will. If you are unhappy at work, do you stay? Maybe there are some benefits of staying, maybe the pay, you like the people, you have a good supervisor or whatever. Or do you find a new job?
Okay, so I think again another great question. My counsel, because again I do executive coaching also. My counsel to my clients and friends and family is you don't want to be running away from something. You want to be drawn towards something, right? So if
You
in
say that
fact
again because that's
you
going to be a
run away
snippet.
from something, right? You don't want to have to run away from something, but yet you want to be drawn towards something. Like I'm leaving because of this amazing opportunity, not that I'm running away from where I'm currently at. Okay. So if in fact you're not happy, you got to take that first step. You have to have that conversation with your boss about really, setting realistic expectations, understanding, what your objectives are, understanding how what you do impacts the bottom line, impacts the organization. If there's an opportunity for additional development or what have you. But I don't encourage people to leave to run away. I believe you leave on your own timing and it's because you're being drawn towards something.
That was really profound. I like that one. Jan, do you have anything?
I was uh, well, listening to Jackie talk, I had some other thoughts, but I just thought about, I think that for sure, it's when you're younger, I think that, you stay a lot of times because, there are things that, you might be raising your children or, you got tuition or maybe you're in school yourself. And so that's what's keeping you there. But I do like the fact that, Jackie talked about the fact that you're running towards something like you should never don't leave a job mad if you can avoid that at all. Like that shouldn't be how you leave because you take that with you to your next place. And so it could be a good opportunity but you're still feeling the hurt or the shame or the whatever from the place that you left. So if I'm unhappy, and it's taken me some time, honestly, to get to this point. If I'm unhappy, then yeah, I'm having some more conversations
Mhm.
about, okay, this is like what I need, especially if I feel like I'm giving you all of my best. I
Yes.
need to, get some of that back so that I can feel like my time is important or what I'm giving to you is important. Um, but just for my own mental, emotional self, I
Mhm.
just, want to be in a better place. So yes, if I'm unhappy, then I'm starting to look at like, why am I unhappy? And maybe it's not unhappiness. Maybe I'm just not at the place that I feel like I should be. Whether that's, like I thought I was going to be in a different position. I thought that, that I was going to have the opportunity to grow and really kind of evaluating it from that point. And then, seeking like what does then align with what I really, really want to do.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also important. I tell people about building certain muscles, right? So it's important to build and use the muscle of having a crucial conversation, right?
Mm.
You can't shy away from them. It's
Right.
important to have them, and the more that you have them, the better you get, right? And the more you have them, the more often you'll get what it is in fact that you're looking for. But if your employer doesn't know what you're looking for, doesn't know that you're unhappy, you know, they don't have to deal with it.
Right.
So on that note, the last thing I'll say is, first of all, I left every job in my 20s, if not angry, but I was gone. Like 2 weeks, that's your thing, not mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
My last day was 2 weeks ago. I don't work there anymore. I don't know why you're calling me at home. I got somebody else now.
Wow. Well, that's the thing. You don't ever really want to burn bridges. You don't, because you never know when that will circle back around, right? When you might need a referral, when you might go to another company and who's across from you sitting,
Right.
interviewing you, it's the person that you left hanging. So what's
Yeah.
the chances, right? So burning bridges is never the way to go.
So the last thing is I feel very confidently I'm like the old man at the club. I feel I can still pull all the good ones, even though I'm standing there with a gray beard and Guess jeans on that I wore in 1995. You know, we've all seen that guy, and he still has that confidence. Is that
Yeah.
confidence a bad thing, though?
No, I think confidence is attractive. Cockiness is a problem, right?
Oh yeah.
Confidence, being self-assured, self-aware, is super important.
And that being said, so Jackie, you were our first guest ever. So with
Oh,
the confetti for you. Ching, 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 ching,
I
ching.
feel special.
And so we appreciate your time and your knowledge because I learned a
Yeah.
lot today,
Good,
things that I
good,
hadn't thought about. And
good.
Mhm.
I wish you had been in this role like 20 years ago or 30 years ago. I might be a millionaire by now.
That's possible, but it's never too late.
It's
It's never,
never too late. It's
never
never
too
too
late.
late. Any
Yeah.
last words from anybody?
Wow. Go ahead, Janice.
I mean, I don't really have any last words this time. I just was thinking like, the people watching this are going to be like, okay, they did a whole shift and got all educated on us.
Actually, the last 3 episodes have been really deeper than we started out being all.
Well, I mean, I think it's important though, right? For you all to be flexible. I mean, you can have conversations that are, super deep and meaningful, and then you can have conversations where you have banter back and forth. I believe that people will benefit from both.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that this is a good conversation to have because there are so many in our circle or coming to our circle that are really, dealing with this, which is why, we're talking about it today. Like, two of the people on this podcast.
Clearly, I'm out there looking for something special.
So can I put in a shameless plug?
You
Yes.
can.
Okay, Jackie Munson Gaines, JMG Connects. I'd like to provide you with my email. It's Jacquie, JACQUIE, at jmgconnects.com. Or you can reach me by phone at area code 313-355-2725. And it's been a pleasure to talk with you this afternoon.
And we will make sure that we put that information in the summary of the podcast so that anyone who views this will have an opportunity to reach out to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. That's it. End of season 1. We're done.
End of season 1.
Jazz hands.